that in this place that we are, there are a lot of myths that we hold. There are a lot of myths that we have been taught. And some of these myths have to do with the idea of reincarnation. And tonight, I really want to bring the idea forward of what we would call MOKSHA. And so within this MOKSHA is this Sanskrit word that embodies the idea that it actually means stepping off the karmic wheel. It's stepping off of the wheel of reincarnation. And it's important to understand this because it's not something that's taught about a lot. In fact, we have been told a few different myths in this reality and where we exist. And one of these myths that I want to share, first of all, that we get told is that Earth is a school. So I do apologize. I moved computers and I don't have any of my notes, so I'm going to do this all off of my head. I did send you guys a link in the top of the chat box that if you get the opportunity to pull that up on your device, it's going to help a little bit with some of what we're talking about. So I want to ask each of you just to come into this understanding of Earth has been told to us, or we've been sold this idea that Earth is a school, right? That Earth is a place that we come to learn lessons and that we reincarnate here in order to learn these lessons. And if we didn't get it right, that we're going to go into the light at the end of our life, and then we're going to meet with our soul council and they're going to do a life review on us, and we're going to see what we did or didn't do right, and then we're going to be coaxed or encouraged to go try again. Have we all heard this one? This whole idea that Earth is a school, right? This is one of the most damaging kind of myths that has been sold to. I'm going to keep using the word light worker, but eventually we're going to come to the point where we'll come up with another word and dispel that one too. But this is one of the terms that we have been sold on this planet. We've been sold the idea of reincarnation. And first of all, that's something that a lot of us actually have to come to on our own understanding, right? It's this whole idea of like, I believe that there's something more to this life and that reincarnation is real, right? And that's many times some of our first journeys of like, there must be more than this. I know that it isn't just a one and done. Otherwise, what's the point? What's worth it, right? And so there's this idea of reincarnation. And then once we start on the trail of reincarnation, it's like, oh, okay, well, I must have really messed up in some lifetimes, right? And so now I'm reincarnating here so that I can try to get it right. I must not have figured it out. I have a lot of karma. I have a lot of debt. I have a lot of stuff to work out in order to be a better being, in order to be enlightened, right? So we get sold this idea of reincarnation. We get sold this idea that we've incurred tons of debt and tons of karma, that obviously we got karma to burn off or else we're stuck here, right? And here is the thing that I want to start to share with each of you is that is not truth. And I'm going to ask each of you to drop into your heart and feel. Ask yourself, how true does reincarnation feel to you? As far as an angelic path, as far as a Christic path, as far as how this universe was designed to be. Now, if this universe is a school, if this planet Earth is a school, let me ask you something. We've all gone to school, right? So when you went to school, perfect. I will definitely touch on that, Ari. That's good. So when you went to school, you went to first grade, then you went to second grade, right? So in first grade, they start teaching you your numbers, your letters, how to read and write, right? Now, if Earth is a school and we go through first grade and we're remembering everything, and you and you complete first grade, and now you're reincarnating in order to go into second grade. Tell me, how much mind wiping happened before you went into second grade? Could you imagine going into second grade, but before you go into second grade, they do the mind flash on you, and then they erase everything that you've learned, right? And so now you're in the next grade, you're in school, you're supposedly going to school, right? But you keep getting mind wiped. Has anybody ever thought of that scenario before? If this really was a school and we were coming here to learn lessons, how do you ever get your master's degree? How do you ever actually evolve through the grades if you constantly keep getting mind wiped? And not only are you mind wiped, but then your lifespan keeps getting shortened, because we actually have the ability to live much longer. And in the Lemurian times, the Atlantean times, it was not uncommon for people to live well into thousands of years. So I want to give you the concept that within this reality, there is an expression, there is an ability to experience this reality, right? But we're not meant to be stuck here on a reincarnation wheel. Part of this is a negative alien agenda that is keeping souls trapped on this planet in order to harvest our energy, to harvest our physical bodies, they utilize us, and I know this is really hard for a lot of people sometimes to start hearing, but we're no different than farm animals for certain races of beings. We are no different than livestock. We're used for food, for fuel, and for sexual pleasure. And when you really start to understand a lot of the people who have had encounters and things, and really start to get through the past life regression kind of work and stuff like that, that's where we start to strip away the mind slides and the mind wipes. So here's the thing, this universe, this sector of the universe wasn't always like this. Now I want to plant the next idea into you. When you think of history, when you think of the history of Earth, how far back does your mind actually go? This planet is actually, this universe is actually billions of years, right? So, but in our mind, most of the times we will go maybe to biblical times, which is a little over 2,000 years ago, or we might go into Egyptian times, or we might even get really vast and go maybe like 6,000 to 8,000 years ago with the Sumerian information, or all of this information on the planet that's on the cuneiforms. And when we understand that there is a level of history on this planet that starts at a certain form, when you start to read these things, when you start to read, say, the Hindu texts, and you start to read the Norse mythology, and you read the Greek mythology, and you read all of these Hebrew mythologies and things like that, we're going to find that all of this is actually around a specific time in our history. And if you can actually see, there's a link that I sent, it's on the chat box up a little bit higher, and it's the Ascension Glossary. And I would like to actually present an ideal to you, okay? That all of this stuff that is kind of within our memories, right, is actually not much further than about 10,000 years ago in Earth's history. But there is history that we're holding within that I really want to start expanding you guys to about 20 million years ago at minimum. And within that, there was a net that was put around this particular sector of the universe, because when we hear about some of the mythology about the fallen angelics, the fallen angels, we hear about the wars in the heavens, right? Well, I want to start pulling you out of that and starting to get you to understand that these are actually deities and beings and demigods, okay? And so when we talk about beings like, say, Lucifer, they talk about the Luciferian rebellion and how he got a third of the armies of heaven, right? And they are now the fallen angels, and that they mated with the people of earth and created the Nephilim, and those were the giant races on earth. These are actually things within our history, within our DNA, but even when I share this to you, how much of this just feels like stories, right? How much of this just feels like mythology? And when we can go back beyond that, we're going to actually look that before that was the Atlantean Holocaust. And if you pull back before that, we actually had the Lemurian Holocaust. And if you pull back before that, you're going to see that we actually are seeded by a lot of these different angelic races. And I want to pull you all the way back to the cradle of Lyra. This is where the original seedings of this universe started, okay? And the cradle of Lyra, where these original seedings started, this is where a lot of the creator realms or the Christic beings started, right? And there was an infiltration that happened within this universe. This infiltration actually came through mainly on a mental scape. And I want to just share that a lot of these beings, they basically, and how can I share this? So what happened is there was a being that came through and saw himself as the creator, right? So these beings started to create what would be called the Luciferian energy. Lucifer just means the shining one. It just means the shining light. That is all. It is a being who is actually service to self, who is feeling as though they are the creator, they are the God, therefore they should be worshipped, and then they should be revered as the light. And so they have a vampiric energy into it because they are a false light. They're like a lunar light that is retrieving energy from others. So this creation came into being within this reality, and you gotta kind of expand your mind to think the size of planets, the size of galaxies, the size of actual huge creator essences, right, that have had actual battles within this universe. So we're talking that when we can actually get into our Christic body self, and for those of you that have done a lot of the past life regression or the QHHT sessions, a lot of you have experienced connecting with your group consciousness. It's a massive group intelligence of light. It's not one being anymore with one body. It's a group intelligent consciousness that happens, that embodies these things. And this war that happened here was the war for dominance of this plane. So this creator essence wanted to be the dominating God, wanted to be the dominating force, did not want to honor the ultimate, the primal source light, the infinite intelligence. It did not want to be a part of that, and therefore it broke away. Well, it had an incredible amount of intelligence and ability to manipulate the structure of this reality. And within that, the best way I can describe some of this is if you can look at a prism of light and all the different light spectrums that happen, we're down here in like the base colors, the base darker colors. But as we see radiance of color and light move up, those are the higher dimensional planes. So within this very setting that you're sitting in right now, in the very house that you're sitting in right now, a lot of times the reason why you sense and feel the energy of other beings in your room is because you are attuning yourself to other dimensional planes of beings, right? So you are being able to sense and feel mostly fourth dimensional beings, beings in the astral realm, beings in the dream realm, beings in the next dimensional realm, and even up into the fifth dimensional realm. So we are in a dense plane, but we are our consciousness. So what is being trapped within this, if you can understand the angelic realms, if you can understand, the higher dimensional realms are more of like a group consciousness. These nebulous light fields of many, many hearts and minds that just feel so beautiful when you're there, and this resonance of being in alignment with God's source, right? Well, the fall of the angels is when that energy gets pulled down into denser light forms. So we talk about morphogenetic fields. That's a morphogenetic field, and as you bring it into slower and slower light, it starts to crystallize it and bring it into actual, at the densest form, the carbon base or the human body. We are in the most dense creation possible. Well, unfortunately, the amount of consciousness that we can anchor into these forms is incredibly limited. It at one point was possible, but we've been netted off. So within these wars that have happened over millions of years, you guys, there has been wars over accessing and hijacking the consciousness of different beings, and it has come forth in multiple different ways. And again, ask your truth, drop into your heart, feel this for yourself, that many angels were actually tricked into being here, right? And these tricks come from these ideas of sounds or impressions that the earth is calling us, that the earth needs help, that we need to come here. So there are definitely angelic beings who did decide to come here. So there's aspects of us that did decide to come here, but there's just as possible the aspect of that we got tricked into being here. And it's just important to know that, okay? Because what happens is when the angelic being gets dropped, fallen angelic gets dropped into a lower density, the pain of the separation from source begins to fractalize the soul. And this is another way of how I was sharing with you guys before, some of the concept of our oversoul has kind of a group consciousness, and then that branches down into 12 other, it fractalizes, and then there's more aspects of us, and then it fractalizes it again. And there's actually many, many, many aspects of our soul that get completely shattered, and there may be one or two or more aspects of you on this planet right now, but you may be sharded and fractalized on other planets, in other dimensional planes, in other parallel realities. And so what happens as we get fractalized, our job to actually get the heck out of this prison that we've gotten trapped into is to actually reconnect with all of our soul aspects again. And I have to kind of talk about the not awesome stuff in order for us to get a better understanding to see how to retrieve all of our soul particles. So when the souls get pulled into this realm, now here's how some of the trickery works. I'm going to call them by their names so that you can understand them a little bit better, but you have beings that are using the Beelzebub energy. One of the most trickery energies on the planet, and one of the most demonic, if you will, is the Jehovian energy. So the Jehovah network and the Jehovah vibration on the planet, unfortunately, is one of the false gods in this universe who has created reversal codes and has very distinctly, and is totally attacking me right now for saying this, for creating the nets and also the beliefs of that you need to do better. If you think about the Jehovah energy and you really start to study it and understand it, it's riddled with guilt, it's riddled with shame, it's riddled with responsibility, it's riddled with tons of energy to keep you imprisoned in your own self. Okay, And then you feel so shitty and guilty in this life because you obviously weren't good enough that, oh my God, if maybe I'll try it again, right? So Jehovah and Yahweh. Yahweh is another, they're really, really close and really, really similar. And then I'm going to tie this into another term that is used a lot in the New Age and metaphysical spiritual world, and it is an absolute deception, and that is the reverse. So it's the Metatronic grid, and you can see it being pushed through a lot of the spiritual teachings, that they try to push the energy of Archangel Metatron, they try to push the energy of the Metatronic cube and the geometry of it, and all of those are false energies. And I'm gonna tell you right now that another false net energy on this planet, and I'm incredibly aware of it. I actually have it in my office, but I really use it in order to kind of understand their grid and their network a little bit better. But one of the false reversal light energies on this planet is actually the flower of life, which is actually nicknamed the daisy of death because it inverts. It isn't connected to eternal light anymore. Therefore, it's constantly feeding and recycling, right? So you have these beings who said, fuck you to God. I'm just going to put it that way. Okay, you have these incredibly powerful creator beings from the creator realms, from the heavens, who basically said, screw this. I don't want to be connected to God's source light anymore. This is my world. This is my domain. I'm going to take it. And they understand the physics of this universe. They understand the mechanics of it, is the best way to put it. How to use the wormholes, how the grid lines work, how the ley lines work, how the different levels of gravity work, how to actually build planets, create planets, move planets. For them to take a moon and move it somewhere else, child's play, no big deal. Totally things within their gifts and capabilities to do. So within this, they need energy to feed off of, because you can't be a parasite or a vampire without something to feed off of, right? You need to be able to have a food source. So there is a ton of trickery that has been done to call in light beings in order to suck them into this false matrix. That is why you hear a lot of times a lot of beings won't come into physical form, won't come any closer than other than telepathic communication into this reality, because to come into this realm is incredibly dangerous. We get trapped in it, right? So with these beings creating these nets here, here's how it happens. If you actually ever really read a lot of the Nagamadis, if you read the Hindu texts, if you read any of the stories or the mythologies of the Norse gods, or any of the Greek gods, or the Hebrew teachings, if you read any of the archangel or the angelic energy, right? We've all had some sort of understanding of some of this in our life. Everything is based on a hierarchy, right? All the angelic realms are even built on hierarchies, and there's higher heavens, and within these higher heavens there's actually hierarchies within them. So when we get pulled as a consciousness into this realm, the number one thing, again, that we are in a battle for is our consciousness. The way that we get sucked in and trapped into this realm, yeah, Drunvalo, yes. And unfortunately, he worked a lot with Thoth, and Thoth is actually one of the beings who have aided the negative alien agenda and kind of imprisoning this planet even more. I've gone into this. There's history that I personally have with Thoth that I have to clear, because I get really agitated with him and I have to let it go. because he sold us down the river a while ago. So yes, Drunvalo had, and again, all of the teachings that are on the planet. So if you ever read any Drunvalo stuff, the Flower of Life information, you're going to find nuggets of truth in there, but just understand that a ton of it has reversal light or reversal energy in there. So some of those Merkabas that he's asking people to create is to actually pull them into other realms of entrapment. So our job is to, first of all, understand the landscape. And I really apologize. I wish I had all my notes that I had written earlier. But the main thing to start to understand is, first of all, that we are in a realm where there is a really highly capable beings, right? Really creator level beings that are really shitty people. They're very much service to self. They're very much not in alignment with living within the law of one and returning to God's source light. They decided they wanted this. They decided they wanted to take over it. They wanted to be the reigns and the rulers of it. And they have created hierarchies within it. Now, unfortunately, within these hierarchies, they have immense capabilities with light, right? So they have an ability to manifest light. They have an ability to seem like angels. They have an ability to seem like our ancestors. They have an ability to seem like enlightened ascended masters, right? So here's how it works. They've created within this reality reincarnation traps. And part of these reincarnation traps are held in place by a lot of other different races. So we've been kept stupid dumb here, right? Because remember, we have a ton of history where in the Lemurian days and the Atlantean days, we were really aware of all of the beings in the galaxy. We were completely aware of interdimensional travel. We were completely aware of beings in other planets, of the Cradle of Lyra, of the Pleiades, of the Sirians, of all of these things. We were completely aware of moving through and stargates and travel and high technology, right? So the prison of our minds came after that. So what happens is now they have a technology where when we die, we're all encouraged to go to the light, right? We're all encouraged to go to the light. But if you actually really look at it, or for any who have had near-death experiences or any of these kind of situations, you realize that a lot of times it comes with this idea of moving through a tunnel. And this tunnel, and if you do the life between lives work, if you do any of the regression or hypnotherapy, this happens a lot in my sessions. People get pulled into places where there's life review. And these life reviews are always where you go before a panel of beings who bring your information forward, but the energy around it is always to point out something that you didn't do in order to self-perpetuate a level of guilt, in order for you to feel obligated to come and fix it again, right? So a lot of us sit here with this feeling, and I can pretty much guarantee that each of us have been at moments where we have been like, oh my gosh, it's my job to come here. This is my mission. I came here to do this. I came here to clear that. We have all of these beliefs that have been placed on us because we have believed that we're here for a purpose. We're here to accomplish something. We're here to do something. And I will tell you, at the very initial moment of, if we ever came here to help rescue or to retrieve a fallen angelic, a being that got sucked into this matrix, many times we weren't actually told of how detrimental it was to come here, right? Or we believed that we could, and we get here. And the whole goal that we all would have had would have been to get here and get out, not to get here and get stuck for 50,000 years or 100,000 years, right? The whole idea was to come in and to retrieve, to share the knowledge and get back out, not to be recycled. But here's how it works. So we come in, and the first thing that happens is anytime there's guilt, shame, or any of these other feelings, we fragment ourselves. And every time we get fragmented, all of the soul fragments can actually get thrown into other incarnations. So you, as an infinite being, as a soul, from your oversoul perspective, are having many, many, many other experiences simultaneously right now. And we need to retrieve ourselves. And this is why we get so kind of overwhelmed with so much emotion sometimes, because it's like, why am I dealing with this? And why am I dealing with this? So within this energy of sensing and feeling that we're just going to say that we came in here to rescue some fallen angelics, maybe some of our angelic brethren that got tricked, or that got pulled, or that got deceived, or that even chose whatever to come into this dimension. And we hear the cry and we come into it. We're like, I will help. I hear that. I will help. Right? Well, now we're in a false reversal net. And this false reversal net, once we enter it, pulls us in, and it pulls us into a reincarnation state. These loopholes that are created here are all designed to keep feeding their system. They don't want us to have our memories. We're not supposed to be mind wiped when we die. We're not supposed to not remember all of our other lifetimes. Ask yourself, drop into your heart and ask yourself, how true does it feel that you should be completely mind wiped and mind blanked? How true does it feel that you should have no memory of your angelic heritage or your truth, or how to utilize all of your ascension mechanics? How true does it feel that you deserve to be punished? You deserve to work off karma. You deserve to be in the school because you're not good enough and you haven't learned enough and you're not good enough, right? That you obviously don't have enough knowledge and you're not at the level that God would accept you back. How true does that feel? That feels like a crock of shit to me, right? But we've all bought it at some point. I remember my awakening process and in my 20s and sitting there going like, oh my gosh, like, oh yeah, I must be here to work off karma. Oh my gosh. Oh yes, I have to like remember my past lives and work off all of this stuff. Oh my goodness. Okay, well now I'm a light worker and I'm here to heal the planet and I'm here to fix things, right? And we keep going more and more into this like service, right? And getting sucked into it because our hearts are geared towards that. Our hearts are geared towards moving back to source. And we're being manipulated into the carrot and the stick. Like, yeah, absolutely. Here, come help, come heal, right? Well, in this, if we keep losing our memories every time we die, then what? We keep getting put into kindergarten, and in 70 years, so we'll just say an average life is 70. We'll even give it 90, right? 90 years. 90 years you have here. It takes you 40 years to start to try to figure shit out again, right? And then by then you're so inundated with programming, it takes you 20 more fucking years to like clear all the programming off of you. And now, oh my God, okay, like I'm 60, 65 years old and I'm gonna start working on my spirituality, but oh shit, I didn't save enough money to like even earn food and have a place to live. And so you see how our entire society, this whole construct is actually a parasitic construct. We spend the entirety of our life pretty much in survival mode, maintaining this body, right? Yeah, most of my own beliefs have just blown a fuse, lol, that's awesome. So, and here we are within the system, and what teachings do we have? So now we're searching, now we're seeking for teachings. But again, remember, all the history, if you start go hunting on this planet, I want you to even think about this, because I've been doing this. Go hunt on the planet, and what's the oldest teachings you can find? And we're looking at maybe some old Buddhist teachings, but then we realize, oh, okay, the Hindu teachings go back even further than that. You got the teachings of Shiva, you got the teachings of all the hierarchies within the Hindu religions. Oh, okay, well, let's kind of tie that in. That goes really close to the timing of the Norse gods. And then we got the Sumerian history, the Babylonian history. We're not going back that far. I mean, even if we go into ancient, the original times of Egypt, where we start to even barely vaguely touch on like the teachings of the stories of Atlantis and that. We're not back very far, you guys. And now all of these are holding teachings that you have gods, demigods, gods above you, and there's titans, and there's all of these beings, and if you're lucky, some beings come here with higher capabilities. I mean, if you read all of like the Hindu teachings and texts, and even if you read the Bible, even if you read the Nag Hammadi, every single one of them talks about extraterrestrials. They're all running around on their vimanas, their fire chariots coming in like thunder into the planet and all of this stuff, right? So they're all coming here in all of this kind of spacecraft and all of these extraterrestrials that come and go, and they come and they talk about the other realms and stuff. But that's the biggest hint that we got, that if you're lucky enough and if you do it right, you can maybe be part of transcending all of this, right? And that's just a crock of crap, because the whole teachings of it, even if you go into the Gnostic teachings and all of that, all of it is filled and riddled with all of this deception. They can't even get the story straight on any of it, because none of it's coming from a true source. Half of the shit that's being told is being told by these malevolent creator beings. Shiva is a being who is presented as a deity that is actually, who is supposedly where Buddha got a lot of his teachings into enlightenment, right? But Shiva, if you look at it, corresponds with the different Norse gods like Thor, and he also corresponds with the Sumerian gods and the Annunaki, right? We're really talking about the Annunaki. We're talking about these reptilian beings that are on this planet, who have abilities to shapeshift, who have abilities to present themselves as gods on this planet, who have encompassed this planet as a slave race for their service, right? But here's the thing. They hate us, and I'm going to tell you why they hate us. They hate us because we actually have within our body the codes and the ability to re-encapture our Christic DNA, and they do not. It just bugs the shit out of them, and they hate it. I'm going to tell you right now that half of the experiments that are done from abductions and things like that is them trying to figure out how to get a vehicle, a body that can get a soul in it, so that they can have a body as well in order to transcend or ascend or have a living form, because many of these races are dying. This is why so many people get abducted, is because a lot of times these beings, and I hear it over and over and over, you guys, from sessions and from other people who've experienced it. They get abducted, they get taken places, they're having samples taken, they have stuff happening to them. And these beings are just, when we telepathically connect, what do they need? They need help because their race is dying. Their race is dying because they're not choosing the living light. And what has happened is they've become such copies of copies of copies of copies, because we're talking from the very beginning of time, they would keep manufacturing races. We've talked about this a little bit before, but sex was not the way. Procreation was not the original way beings were born. Angels were not born through being birthed through a womb, through pregnancy, right? So a lot of this is just straight manifestation, or even cloning or creation. If you actually read the text of the Sumerian cuneiform text and the stories of the Annunaki, Enki created Enlil in a like a cloning thing. So he's technically his brother and his father. It's very awkward and odd, but they go into great detail about how these beings get created, basically in pods and basically in cloning or however technologically they do it. So they could do a lot of creation or seeding of races. That's how we've been seeded, right? So within these seedings or creations of races, they kept trying to capture the light because they couldn't hold it in their form because they were not choosing to be in alignment with God's source. So what do? They take a little DNA from here, another DNA from here, and they create another race. And here's just some of just a nutshell of the stupid history that happens. So one race gets powerful, so what do? They go create another race of beings in order to destroy that race of beings. There's actual beings across the galaxy that many of them were created just as a means to get back at another race of beings. This is how petty how some of this stuff has been, right? But let me tell you, if we actually understand the infinite essence of this creation, we can understand that from it all, we all came from the womb of it, right? And that from this womb, we have the ability, regardless of whatever modifications or genetic stuff that has happened, that our consciousness has the ability to move back home. Most of the times, unfortunately, when we do the clearing work and we ask them, do you choose to go back? Would you choose to come and return to God's source life? Or do you want to go back to where you originated? Sometimes they choose to go back to God's source light, and sometimes they say, fuck it, I don't care, I want to go back wherever I came from, right? Some of them just are choosing to stay here. It's not our job to judge that in any way. I do believe in and resonate with the infinite intelligence that our job is to recapture our consciousness. So within this, there are highly advanced technological advancements within the galaxy where they can do mind wipe. They can put memories into your mind. They can pull you out of your dreams at night. You'll be in another place. You will be in another location. Maybe things will be happening. So a lot of times in our dreams, we are actually slipping our consciousness into some of our other bodies, other places, and then we pull back in, right? So they have the ability to do all kinds of things with us in this scenario, but our gift is that we have, when we start to become lucid in this, so part of this is like lucid dream training is really special for us because it teaches us to wake up our lucidity wherever we are. And if we can start to keep waking up our lucidity wherever we are, we can proclaim our sovereignty. We can command. Because here's the thing, they can't force us back into these bodies. They can't force reincarnate us, but they're really good at manipulating us. That's where the soul councils come in and where the soul reviews come in, and they get us to feel guilty or as if we didn't do good enough, and let's go back in, right? So now we're choosing it, even if they have to really work with us to choose it. And here's a funny thing, if you guys watch the Pixar movie Soul, they show it right there. They're totally having to force these little beings to like find their spark so that they can get them to reincarnate back on planet, right? So they will utilize all of these techniques in order to keep us in these lower mind frames. Now, what they're really trying to do, even if we end up getting out of, say, Earth plane and onto another planet, if we're still within this reversible form, we're still in prison, right? Our goal is to, and I like saying this, it's a little bit of a shocker, but our goal is to learn how to die with our memories. Okay? We've all died lots and lots and lots of times, and we've all forgotten lots and lots and lots of times. That's why we came back here again, and now here we are again. Crap. Here we are again, right? And so we get to start to go like, okay, I get it. When you get alert to somebody's trying to tricking you, don't you get a little more kind of aware of your surroundings? When somebody's trying to trick you, you're like, wait a minute, no, you can't do that anymore. And so when we can get to that place where we start to become aware, we can start to proclaim our sovereignty in it. And our goal is that if I could just share this visual, that when we transcend our physical form, whether we're doing it in our astral bodies, whether you're doing it in your dreams, whether you're doing it out of body experience, or if you're getting pulled out of your body by one of these beings, or if this is the actual moment where our physical form is dying and we are moving our consciousness out of it. The absolute goal for them is to get us tractor beamed into the light. Within this light, they will put familiars to us. They will make it seem like our angels are greeting us. They will make it seem like ascended masters are meeting us, or they may make it seem like your favorite Uncle Harry's meeting you, right? They will put somebody that because they can scan your memories. They know your memories. They know, like, you're like a computer database. Super easy. And they will scan whatever it is, whatever belief you are or whoever you are, in order to say what resonates for you. And then they will project that picture to you as a hologram. They will look like that, and they will greet you and say, come with me, and lead you to the light, right? Now I'm going to tell you, don't do it, but drop into your heart and ask for yourself. Ask for yourself, because here's the thing. This is a net. So I want you to imagine a net, but a net has holes in it, right? We're not trapped here. We're only trapped here because we don't know we're trapped here. When you know you're trapped here, now we get to find the doorways out. Ready? So when we transcend in these realms, we don't want to go where they're guiding. And they make it super bright. So they can create feelings. They can make it feel really loving and beautiful and light. You want to pull back and look around. Look around. And your biggest thing, even though you won't have a physical heart in that reality, is to drop into your heart and let your heart guide you. You have to follow your own soul light. You have to command. I command to go to the source of my soul light now. I command to go to the source of infinite love now. I command to go. And when you do that, it starts to tractor beam you and pull you towards your true soul light, so you can actually transcend the cycle of reincarnation. That is how we actually get off. In order to wrap this up, because I know I've been talking a little while, is just to say, again, discernment with everything. Discernment with everything. There is so much infiltration in our media, in the news, in even the sound frequencies that are sent to us, even in our dreams. Many times we're being pulled in our dreams, being pulled out of our bodies into these other locations. In this, the more and more we can get to the place that we bring our consciousness awareness into it, become as lucid as we can within it, that each and every time we can just keep dropping into the crystal, the compass of our heart, calling in the Christic light, calling in our soul light, our original soul frequency light. Find the words that resonate for you and have a transcendence plan, right? How many of you guys have life insurance? Or a retirement plan, right? I'm gonna add a death plan to that. Have your out of body forever plan, okay? So within that transcendence of when we transcend, that we know to not go to false light, that we know to go to our own soul light, our own light, to transcend through it, to call on our higher self, our true Rishik soul family, the creator realm, the original God source light, and move towards that. And all I can say is this whole experience that we have here now is giving us an opportunity to use discernment in everything. Feel everything. Ask yourself, does that feel organic, of love and light, or does that feel as though it's false? Does it feel deception? It's not that hard. The more you do it, it's really easy. There's times where I'll feel things and I can tell it's a mind slide or a entity trying to throw me off and say a dream. And I will go into my heart and try to connect with it. And it's like trying to connect with a piece of plastic. It feels completely inorganic and not real. Okay. So just because it looks like something, just because it looks like a cool alien or some angel or ascended master, their heart has to resonate at a certain thing, and most of them don't have the Christic light resonating from them. So that's how we check it. So I know there's so much more that we could talk about with this, but please just take what is useful to you. Again, I just want to give the idea that a lot of the programming, a lot of the way the religions are set up, the way politics are set up, the way the structure is set up, so that we're always feeding something. Even the way we work is feeding something. None of us are free. We have to pay for food. We have to pay to sleep. We have to pay to have shelter. This is not a free will. Like this, those are not being free. None of us get to just go and be. And again, our thing that I would just invite each of us to do the most right now is let's free ourselves from our own beliefs, our own imprisonments, our own limitations, the places we're putting ourselves down, the places where we are the ones imprisoning ourselves and making ourselves locked in to whatever it is we're doing that isn't resonating. Because without doing that, any place we hold guilt, shame, blame, limitation, they have the ability to go in and blow that up and keep us buying into it. So let's take the food away from them. Let's take the fuel away from them. Let's say no. Just because they have bigger, better toys than we do and they know how to use their VR all fancy, screw you guys. We have the Christic light and we get to shine it. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up with that this evening. I would love any questions or any aspect if you guys want me to expand on it at another time. With that, I'm just going to invite each of you, because we talked about a lot of different things, is just to go into your heart center again. Whew, take that deep breath, come into yourself, go into the center of the earth, the heart of the earth. Everything you interact with, I'm going to invite you interact with the heart of it. There's a heart crystal in everything. There's a heart crystal in the earth. There's a heart crystal in every plant, every animal, every planet. And those are the true gateways back to source light. And if it doesn't have a heart crystal, you might not want to hang out with it. So be within that beautiful light. Activate your 24-dimensional shield again, knowing that 24-dimensional shield transcends the entire network and grid that's within this density. It starts to tune us to the higher levels of actually having access out of this realm. And with the love and the light of the infinite creator, I am ever so grateful to each and every one of you for giving me the opportunity to share this information, share this love. I love you guys so much. Thanks.